to raise more questions and deepen the fascination. They remain a sort of quest, a cherished hope of actually communicating with another species. This special presentation of nature is about that hope. It's about dolphins and us. It's about what's in their nature that makes us think we can reach them, and what's in our own that makes us try.
Nature is made possible by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting and by viewers like you, your gas company, and America's natural gas industry, who have developed ways to run buses, cars, and trucks on clean natural gas in order to reduce pollution and help preserve the environment. Siemens, a whole new world of ideas in electronics and electrical engineering. Siemens, precision thinking. And by Canon, quality and innovation for the way we work and live. Canon.
They course through every ocean of the globe, dolphins, citizens of a blue planet. They go effortlessly where we cannot follow and lead lives we know little about. Yet, we feel a kinship with these creatures that transcends our differences. Perhaps it's the recognition of a common spirit in such a different form that makes dolphins so irresistible. With their seemingly inexhaustible high spirits, dolphins have inspired not only wonderment and envy, but an enduring quest for close encounters with their kind. The quest for communion with dolphins draws visitors from around the world to a remote beach in Western Australia. The experience they seek is a once-in-a-lifetime encounter with a dolphin in the wild.
1, 2, okay, I only want 3 people to come out at a time, and you can just take a fish out of the bucket and feed the dolphins, okay? 3 people. Take a fish out
Since
of
the
bucket.
mid-60s, wild bottlenose dolphins have come here to Monkey Maya completely of their own accord, to be fed and fawned over by a seemingly endless stream of two-legged strangers.
Yeah, just feed her quickly, thank you. Great. Okay, 3 more people. Otherwise you're going to lose it to the visitors. Please get one over there.
What's the basis of this strong fascination, this urge on our part and on theirs to come together at the margin of our separate worlds?
So we don't want to put any stress on them whatsoever. Can you just go back, please? Don't crowd us.
These are the first wild dolphins most of these people have ever seen, and for many, the experience may be educational as well as emotional. But there is another side. As the numbers of visitors rise, so do the risks. Water pollution resulting from human waste may already have caused the death of several dolphins here. And plans are afoot for a major international resort to be built near the beach where the dolphins gather. The dolphins of Monkey Maya have attracted worldwide attention. More than 100,000 visitors a year now make the pilgrimage here to experience firsthand their own dolphin encounter. With their playfulness and their perpetual smiles, dolphins tantalize and intrigue us. But despite centuries of close encounters between our species, how well do we really know them? How much do we really understand of the world behind the dolphin's smile? For more than 4 decades, researchers have been patiently adding to our knowledge of the real world of the dolphins. An underwater microphone, or hydrophone, records their vocalizations. It's just one of the tools which Rachel Smoker uses in her long-term study, a study aimed at shedding light on the lives the dolphins of Monkey Maya lead when no one is around to pet or feed them. The clicks are echolocation signals, while the high, pure notes are signature whistles, a kind of calling card, unique to each dolphin. From these sounds, Smoker may one day be able to identify each dolphin in the population of more than 300 which frequents the bay. A tiny outboard serves as a research vessel, while a home video camera records their behavior. Smoker is finding remarkable similarities between the social lives of dolphins and chimpanzees, mammals whose evolutionary paths diverged 60 million years ago. But as Smoker herself is painfully aware, the tools of the scientist can do little more than skim the surface of the dolphin's world.
It's kind of surprising to us that after working here for nearly 8 years, we're still learning new dolphins. So it seems like although there are some dolphins that stay within the area that we're working, there are a lot of other dolphins that come and pass through, and we just don't know how many are in the bay.
It's frustrating work, and in the end, nagging questions still haunt the researchers. How do dolphins communicate? How do they think? What can we learn from them? The attempt to commune with dolphins has its roots in the mists of time. Here in Australia, Joshua Jude Walker remembers the stories of his people, the Kubumari.
Dolphins to me are, and what I've been taught by my old people, are higher than us. They're like our older brothers and sisters. The old people would use the dolphin to help them catch the fish, and they would go out thigh deep in the water and clap their hands under the water, and that would give a message to the dolphins, and the dolphins would acknowledge that and start herding up the mullet. And after the dolphins brought the fish into the shallow water, then the people would move around in the shallow water, spear the fish, and at the end they'd leave about 3 spears full of fish to say thank you to the dolphins. There's a dance that they do, and it's a shallow water hunting fish dance. After they spear a fish, one man would hold his spear up in the air and dance with it to show everyone that he caught a fish, and that'd be a way everyone would compare each other's size of fish, and you can relate that to the dolphins as well.
On the other side of the world, men and dolphins still go fishing together. For more than a century, wild dolphins have gathered here in a shallow lagoon in southeastern Brazil to take part in a unique joint venture. The dolphins work their way through the shallows toward the line of men. And then, with a steep, rolling dive, they send the signal to the men that the fish are here. Trapped between the dolphins and the men, a school of mullet is tackled from both sides. The dolphins feast until they're full, and the fishermen, with very little effort, net more than they need to feed their families. About 30 bottlenose dolphins take part in this cooperative fishery, and the local community has come to depend on them for their livelihood. But it's friendship, not food, that forms the basis of another remarkable relationship. For more than a decade, Jojo, a wild dolphin, has been swimming with vacationers in the southern Bahamas. Now, a rambunctious teenager, Jojo has been made an honorary citizen of the Turks and Caicos Islands.
Jojo likes to be touched sometimes, but it's very, very rare. And he'll let you know that because he'll come up and rub up next to you and touch you. But
Dean Bernal is Jojo's chosen companion. He explains how to encounter Jojo.
And usually when you do touch him, he'll give you a good slap with his tail to tell you not to do that. And unfortunately, sometimes as the person standing next to you, that has to get the small bite or the hit with his tail. He loved it.
At the Club Med on the Turks and Caicos, Jojo has a reputation for mischief. In extreme cases, he has delivered painful nips to divers. But Bernal, a park warden on the islands, views Jojo's presence as a privilege, not a problem.
He pretty much takes up 50% of my job. Jojo, the project, the medical attention, the research that we do with them, which is all passive. It's mainly observational. And of course, the communication, or what they might call the interspecies communications with dolphins. The ability to spend time with a wild dolphin in his own element, and he calls the shots. Santa Fe, sea base. Yeah, I'm trying to call, see if you guys saw Jojo at the dock today when you departed.
I haven't seen him today at all. I saw him yesterday afternoon at the dock.
Okay, Richard, I'll be standing by on 6-8 if you happen to see him. I think he's just recovering from a week of being a little sick because he lost a lot of weight over the last 5 days. So we're just going to check him each day now.
Jojo's ways are anything but predictable. And with a home range of some 26 miles, it's not uncommon for him to disappear for a week or more at a time. When that happens, it's one of Bernal's duties to find him if he can. Like all dolphins, Jojo is acutely sensitive to sound. If he's within a distance of 50 yards, he will hear the jangling chains, Bernal's underwater paging system. Most dolphins belong to extended families or pods, and their lives are closely entwined with those of the other members of the group. Lone dolphins like Jojo are unusual, and this behavior is unexplained. But accounts of lone dolphins befriending humans date from antiquity. And in this sense, JoJo belongs to a long tradition. To all appearances, he enjoys nothing more than the chance to play, often for hours at a time, with his closest friend. With his super-sensitive hearing, JoJo is fascinated by anything that produces sound. The prop of an outboard motor interests him, but it's also dangerous, a lesson which Bernal tries to teach him. JoJo's attraction to Bernal goes far beyond curiosity. It seems to be a genuine longing for companionship. Dean Bernal is one of the lucky few, and he knows it, for JoJo has bestowed upon him a rare gift, friendship with a creature that's wild and free. Perhaps the most remarkable thing about the friendship between Dean and JoJo is that it was entirely JoJo's idea. That a completely wild dolphin would seek out human companionship is one of the mysteries about dolphins that intrigues us most. And when we come back, we'll explore others. How do they communicate? And do their minds work like ours? But right now, we need your help to continue exploring the lives of our fellow creatures. By dialing the number on your screen, you can pledge a contribution to this public television station. And by calling now, you'll be expressing your support for the Nature Series and the other fine wildlife programs on this station. So please make that call right now. Thanks.
Thank you indeed. I'm Patrick Stoner, and we have something special for you. We're going to be going back to more on dolphins in just a second. But how would you like to get something absolutely for no extra money than if you become a subscriber any other time, but it's only available during this show right now? We've gone to the trouble of going and getting the zoo books on the dolphins. Very nice, very interesting. It has got some beautiful pictures in it that are dolphins, and it's for every pledge of $40 or more right now. Look at that. That is gorgeous, isn't it? But I tell you, this is the most fun for me. There are all kinds of games, riddles, and things for kids in the back. Get them interested in it early. Something for them absolutely free for every pledge we get right now to the GE Elephant Society volunteers live behind me, ready to take every call that comes in here now. And in addition to that, if you decide you'd really like something special, you'll get the zoo book, because any pledge of 40 or more counts. How about something that will perhaps save some of these animals? This is the T-shirt of the Marine Mammal Stranding Center over there in Brigantine, New Jersey. We've done a special with it before. When you wear this around, you may encourage other people to support it and therefore to save dolphins. So you get the T-shirt for a pledge of $60 or more right now. That means you automatically, because it's $40 or more, get the zoo book, which we'll send right out to you, and you become a subscriber to TV 12. All of that is happening, but only around this program tonight. So here's your opportunity. If you believe in this, if you're an environmentalist as I am, and you care about these creatures, and you'd like to support all of public television's efforts, which I have been told by many environmental organizations has done more to preserve endangered species and to preserve the environment than any other single thing, these programs that we put on the air. If you believe in all of that, here it is. Don't say anymore, somebody ought to do something about this. It's your time to do something about it at this number right now, and you'll get something for yourself as well. The zoo book for every pledge of $40 or more, and if you decide to go for $60, you can get the T-shirt as well, but don't put it off anymore, and don't use that awful sentence, why doesn't somebody do something for these wonderful creatures? You and I are the somebodies, and the moment to do it is now and only now. 923-1234 is the number, and this is my colleague, Tina Brock.
Thanks, Patrick. You can get involved with your public broadcasting station and do something very important by making a pledge for your family around nature programming. When you make that pledge of support at 923-1234, as Patrick was telling you, maybe you'd like to be really generous at the $60 level. And if so, we'd be really happy to send you the Marine Mammal Stranding Center, Brigantine, New Jersey, a t-shirt for you to wear. And every time, as Patrick was telling you, you send that pledge to TV12, it supports public broadcasting here, it supports the nature programs that you care about, but you're also doing something very important to help the Marine Mammal Stranding Center. Maybe you'd like to be very generous at the $100 level, and if so, we would be very happy to send you someone we have affectionately named here in the studio, Dippy, or Dipper, I guess it is, Ed Cunningham, Dipper the dolphin. And he is plush, a gund. For those of you who are into stuffed animals, you know that's a very good name. Suede fins on him. Maybe you'd like him for yourself. Maybe you'd like to give him to a child or give him to a grandchild. But however it is that you choose to become involved, pledge for the nature programming that you and your family enjoy here on TV12. And don't forget, when you make that pledge during this break, for everybody who calls, we're going to send you the zoo book, specifically on whales. It's from our friends at the San Diego Zoo, and we'll be sending one of these out to you for everybody who makes a pledge at the $40 level or higher. If you want to be very, very generous at the $150 level, we'd be happy to send you the zoo book. We'll also send you Dipper the dolphin as part of that pledge, and we'll also be happy, very, very happy to send to you the Marine Mammal Stranding Center t-shirt. All of those can be yours if you'd like to come in to TV12 as a subscriber at the very generous $150 level. The important thing is for you to get involved, because as Pat was telling you, you can really make a difference here at TV12. Your pledge does so much to help support programming that really makes a difference in this world. That's what TV12 is all about, and that's the kind of programming to when you become involved and when you pledge to your public broadcasting station, all of us together really make a difference in this world. That's why we bring you nature programs, partly because we know you enjoy them with your family, but partly because we know we can really make a difference. Join the adventure here at TV12 by making that pledge at 923-1234. Here's Pat Stoner.
Tina, did you know that dolphins and porpoises are whales or cetaceans? That they're the smallest whales of them all? And like all whales, dolphins and porpoises are mammals. They have lungs and must breathe air. They're warm-blooded. Their babies are born alive, feed on milk from their mothers. That's all available in the zoo book that you can get for any pledge of $40 or more here in the studio right now. And you will not be alone, as you can tell. This is good news for anybody who cares about these creatures, because the only way we're ever going to save them and, in fact, make this world, which is in great environmental danger, a better place in which to live, is if a lot of us come together and do a lot of things. And a lot of things are happening at 923-1234 all at once right now. When you pledge your support now, we know that you care about this kind of nature programming. We know from environmental organizations nothing has been better at helping to save creatures and habitats than this kind of programming. At the same time, maybe you get something that encourages some small person that you know, somebody in your family or a friend's family. Maybe the games alone will interest in them, so you pass that along. That's for every pledge of $40 or more right now, only around this program. And in addition to that, we have that special pledge of the Marine Mammal Stranding Center. They're out actually saving these animals. A pledge of $60 right now, and you'll get all of that as well. So, if you are, like, and I've done this before, I do this all the time to people, they get sick of it, I say, boy, somebody ought to do something about that. Why doesn't somebody do something about that? Once I had somebody say, you know, you're somebody too, you could do something about that. That's true. You're somebody too. You can do something about it right now, and you won't be alone. At 923-1234, you can use your Visa, your MasterCard, your American Express, and you know from the history that TV12 puts this kind of programming on the air all the time. But how do we do it? Only because you give us the money to do it. So you're making that possible right now if you're calling, and if you're not, then you haven't cared as much as perhaps that you said you did. And that's putting it right on the line. But again, you will not be alone. Your money will be well used. This is my friend Tina.
This is what happens when public broadcasting really is at its finest. People getting involved with their public television station to really make a difference. When you call 923-1234, we've got lots of ways of saying thank you to you. If you want to pledge at the $100 level, we'll send you Dipper the dolphin. And for everybody who calls, we'll be very happy to send you the zoo book on whales from our friends at the San Diego Zoo. These are all of our ways of saying thank you to you. But of course, the most important thing that you're doing when you do this is you're helping us to continue the process of bringing programming that you and your family can enjoy, but you're also making a difference. And in these times, being difficult as they are, isn't it good to know that you can truly make a difference? Here, it's such wonderful, so wonderful to see all of the phones ringing, all of our friends from the GE Elephant Society taking your phone calls. And if you're one of the people who has called, thanks a lot.
The discoveries of modern science have shed light upon the lives of dolphins, but many mysteries remain. Could it be that other minds, capable of communicating with ours, inhabit the sea?
I think there's probably no more important single experience than the direct, wordless contact between a person and these wonderful animals. There's a lot that goes back and forth between the person and the animal in those moments.
Ken Norris is considered the dean of dolphin researchers and has spent a lifetime talking to them. His current studies focus on these Pacific white-sided dolphins at the Long Marine Lab in Santa Cruz, California. From studies of these in captivity and others in the wild, Norris has managed to piece together a broad picture of the way dolphins live.
Dolphins are cultural animals. By that I mean that they carry out most of the social functions that they do by learning. They teach each other one thing and another. An awful lot is learned between mother and child in a dolphin school. Little baby dolphins, for example, don't know how to echolocate, and they buzz and click and wheeze and so forth until they finally learn how to do it.
Little was known about their remarkable sonar abilities before Norris began his pioneering studies 40 years ago. Norris and his associates have found that dolphins rely on their acoustic skills primarily at night, when beams of sound may permit them to see into the darkest reaches of their world.
I think the acoustic sense of a dolphin is basically what's let them go to sea. It's certainly one of the most refined senses of any animal on Earth.
Norris and others have discovered that dolphins produce low-frequency sounds that give back a general picture of their surroundings and high-frequency sounds for a more detailed portrait of their world. By interpreting the echoes carried back to them by these sonar beams, dolphins can tell not only where another sea creature is, but how fast it's moving. And they may also be able to identify its species, study the surface of its skin, and even peer into its body to examine its internal organs. This super sense of dolphins may also serve a deadly function.
The noises that dolphins have been found to make now go right up into what the physicists would call the finite limit of sound. It's the place in which if you make more noise, it turns to heat instead of to more sound. Dolphins can actually use the sounds that they make as a weapon, and we have some evidence that they can actually kill fish with those sounds. We speculate that if everybody carries a Saturday night special around, that it's very likely to have important repercussions in the school. Imagine if your child, for example, carried such a weapon around, what it would do to discipline.
Surprisingly, despite their remarkable powers of destruction, dolphins are uncommonly peaceful with one another and with us. Understanding the dolphin's mind, how they reason, how they think, has been the goal of psychologist Lou Herman of the Kewalo Basin Marine Mammal Lab in Honolulu.
The first sentence will be, person, surfboard, fetch. Goggles down.
One way to probe the mind of another species is to try to find a common language, and that is precisely what Herman has done.
Taking it very nicely over to the surfboard for a direct response. Yes, that was very well done.
Good job! We began our work in testing these animals' abilities to learn to understand some simple artificial languages, to learn to understand the messages that we created within these artificial languages.
That's excellent, isn't it? Well, it sure is. Beautiful job. job. But that was a beautiful job.
Okay, Liza, are you ready for the next sentence?
We constructed one language in which words were expressed by the gestures of a trainer's arms and hands, like sign languages for the deaf, starting with the most elementary questions and proceeding as the animals began to demonstrate their capabilities to more and more complex questions. The dolphins in their responses take account of both the meaning of the words and how the words occur in sequence in order to interpret what we want.
Why you did such a good job? Were you gentle with the person? Were you gentle? Yeah, were you gentle?
If we give the dolphin trained in a language of gestures the sequence surfboard, person, fetch, she understands that she is to get a person floating in the tank and take that person to the surfboard. We believe we have provided the first convincing evidence that dolphins can take account of both word meaning and word order.
Yes.
In this experiment, the dolphin will be asked if there's a person in the pool.
Person near. Goggles down. Person question. Ready. That's correct. She says there is a person.
To avoid accidentally sending eye signals to the dolphins, the trainer wears goggles.
Frisbee question. Ready. That's correct. He says there is no Frisbee. Very good.
Herman's research has proven that dolphins understand how the order of words affects their meaning. But are they capable of more abstract thought?
One day we simply decided to see whether the dolphins might understand television images. To our great surprise, the dolphin immediately understood what was being conveyed to it by the image of the trainer and carried out the instructions perfectly.
Herman's research has extraordinary implications. It suggests that dolphins, mammals that have lived in the sea for 60 million years, have the same fundamental ability to develop language that humans do.
Okay, Roberta, come on down.
Ken Martin heads Project Delphis at Sea Life Park in Hawaii. To explore the mind of the dolphin, he is trying an offbeat approach. A television monitor placed in a window of the tank displays the image of the trainer as she prepares to feed the dolphins in the next tank. While she feeds these dolphins, the pair in the first tank studies the screen with interest. The inset screen displays the image which these dolphins see. When the trainer leaves to continue her rounds, the dolphins, taking their cue from the video image, swim off to be fed. By this response, the dolphins show that they understand that the television image represents action that is happening someplace else. This distinction between reality and its representation is one of the hallmarks of abstract thought, once held to be an exclusively human achievement. Another aspect of intelligence is self-awareness. To test the dolphin's concept of self, Martin and his co-workers use a video camera aimed through a two-way mirror. As the dolphins peer at their mirror image, their behavior is recorded by the camera. First, Martin shows them their live mirror image. Then he shows them a recording of themselves.
Okay. Now, got some interaction in the mirror.
Who was that? Was that Tinkerbell?
We've done a series of experiments aimed at exploring the self-awareness of these animals. In particular, self-awareness as measured by a mirror has been demonstrated in people above the age of 2, chimpanzees and orangutans. And we wanted to see if a dolphin would treat its mirror image as another individual or as itself. Tinkerbell's the one who's the most into it. Here she comes. Any reaction?
As the dolphins look into the mirror, they seem to do the dolphin version of making faces, a response they don't show to the video playback.
We see what looks like self-examination behavior in the mirror. And in the mirror mode of video, the animals look like they're examining themselves, and they don't appear to do that in a playback mode with video. So the data suggests self-awareness in the bottlenose dolphin, but being able to actually interpret for sure that the behavior is self-examination, we don't really know that. It's very suggestive that they're self-aware.
If it's true that dolphins are so intelligent, can we assume that they suffer as we would in captivity? Ironically, marine parks sponsor much of the world's dolphin research which has served to heighten concern about the plight of dolphins, both in the wild and in confinement. Diana Reese conducts dolphin communication studies at Marine World Africa USA in Vallejo, California. Her subjects are 2 hand-reared dolphins who have never known the wild.
They're so different than we are, and they seem to be intelligent from when we interact with them. Everybody who works with them says, yeah, they're really intelligent. But in 30 years, we really haven't cracked the code. We don't understand how they're communicating. They're a unique challenge. They're a unique species because it's a non-terrestrial intelligence. And, you know, we speculate about communication with extraterrestrials. Well, here's a non-terrestrial evolving in an aquatic environment totally different from us. How do we begin to look? How do we understand? In many ways, I think, they can show us if we let them.
Taking the opposite tack from Lou Herman, Reese has devised a system which permits these dolphins to give commands to her. A keyboard is outfitted with visual symbols and wired to produce computer-generated sounds. The dolphins are trained to associate each key and the sound it makes with a specific toy or activity.
This is sort of a novel way of looking at communication. It gives them the opportunity to interact with the system, to explore a system, and in this way we can observe how they might use a system that has sound as well as visual forms.
To Reese, the underwater keyboard may serve as a kind of Rosetta Stone, with which she may begin to decipher the secret language of dolphins, the complex system of vocal and visual signals they use to communicate with each other.
Delph hits for ball. Laura gives him the water Dante ball.
As a dolphin presses the different keys, a researcher supplies it with the specific items it has requested. The keyboard is in 2 languages, English and computerized dolphin whistles. Reese has discovered that the dolphins mimic the correct computer whistle as they play with an object. The first evidence that they may actually use words.
That was a ball hits key.
To decode the meaning of dolphin words, Reese records all the sounds they produce and studies their patterns. Her objective, and it's a long-term objective, is to assemble what amounts to a dolphin dictionary, a catalog of their vocal signals, so that they can converse with us in a language of their own, not one we've imposed on them.
sometimes we tend to project what we do onto them. We try to look for what we do. And I think it's a challenge for us to try to find ways of not looking just for what we do, but seeing differences. And it's sometimes quite difficult.
Seeing animals for what they are, and not simply as we want them to be, is a continuing challenge. It demands the often arduous effort of meeting them on their own terms, in their world, a world not at all like ours. Since 1985, Denise Hertzing has been studying dolphins in the Bahamas to learn how they communicate out here in the open sea.
Up and down.
How many did you see out there?
Looks like we've got 3 at about 50 yards or so.
Yards? Anybody recognize?
No, it's hard to tell whether they're all spotted or whether we might have a bottlenose in there.
Okay, check it out.
Hertzing is interested not only in the sounds dolphins make, but in the subtle gestures, which may also be a part of their language. She's studying a population of spotted dolphins, a group which habitually visits the shallow sandbanks of these Caribbean waters.
It's an incredible opportunity to be approached by a dolphin willingly and be able to observe it in the wild. I mean, there are certainly times when they come by and they're on their way somewhere. They're busy, you know, they have dolphin lives. They've got a lot of other things to do. But then there are other times when they come and they just totally surround you and they let you swim away with them and show you part of their world. They positioned me in the back of their group for the most part. I imagine I'm a subordinate amongst their group. For example, one of the things that they do to initiate turns as a group is they just do little slight head nods. And you, as a member in that position, can also initiate turns, do those little head nods, and since they see and back of themselves quite well, they'll respond.
What these wild dolphins really think of Hertzing, no one can know, but they acknowledge her attempt to mimic their body language. And with a tolerance that we might call kindness, they accept her into their school. So far, much of her work has been devoted to finding out who's who and how they fit into the group.
It's an interesting patch behind the dorsal fin there.
Yeah, that's his identification mark. Well, he's new. I don't know if he's part of the second group.
A sonogram identifies the bursts of sound as well as the signature whistles distinctive to each dolphin in the school. These are correlated to the behavior recorded on tape, a step toward deciphering their complex communications.
There's a certain level of trust you do have to build with the wild species to get close enough to really spend the time observing, and I think it will be fruitful for dolphins. Of course, dolphins are in the water. They're a lot harder to follow in certain ways. It's not our element, so we're limited. Can we stay down very long? Can we swim away with them for hours or days? You're limited by the amount of time you can glimpse of their world.
Hertzing's study area is a favorite feeding site for bottlenose dolphins as well as the spotteds. While spotteds search the sandy bottom, bottlenose dolphins scour the ledges where tiny reef fish hide. Though all dolphins have comparable acoustical skills, each species has its own toolkit of sounds. To flush out a fish from the coral crannies, the bottlenosed probes with its beak while spraying the area with a high-pitched sound. While it's possible for us to observe dolphins in the daylight in the shallows close to shore, it's out at sea that they pursue the more serious affairs of life. There, in the dead of night, with only one another for companionship, they lead lives we know very little about.
The dolphins that live out in the middle of the open sea live in a three-dimensional world without any obstacles at all. It's very unlike any other mammal on Earth. They're completely dominated by the need to associate with each other. That's their life. That's where they carry out all of their growth. That's where their kids are taught. Everything happens inside that school. If they're alone, they're nothing. They're actually less than a complete animal.
Intensely social and immersed in a world of sound, dolphins perceive a universe we cannot see and have mastered a realm that bears little resemblance to our own. In light of what we are learning, do we have the right to take them out of their world and put them into ours? It's a question not of science, but of ethics. A question with no easy answer. It took great persistence and some luck to capture on film those extraordinary shots of dolphins in the wild. It's only through programs like this one on nature that we have a chance to visit their world. Just how much time is spent underwater with these wonderful mammals is determined solely by the dolphins. One moment they'll swim alongside you. The next, they're gone, gliding gracefully out of camera range. Our filmmaker Wolfgang Bayer spent 2 years filming all over the world to give us a glimpse into the dolphin world. And when we come back, we'll see what happens when we take them out of their world and put them into ours. If you're enjoying our Dolphin Special or want to show your appreciation for the nearly 200 documentaries nature has produced over the years, please call the number on your screen right now and pledge a contribution of support to this public television station. You'll be saying that you value our nature series and want it to continue. Thanks.
Electrical engineering, Siemens, precision thinking, and by Canon, quality and innovation for the way we work and live. Canon. And by the gas industry, helping provide cleaner air with clean gas energy.
To learn more about wild dolphin society, scientists must sometimes go to extraordinary lengths.
Okay, dorsal fin lined up with the open slots, and I'm ready to come out. Do you guys have him?
Behavioral ecologist Randy Wells has organized an eager army of researchers and Earthwatch volunteers to study the community of dolphins in Florida's Sarasota Bay. For more than 20 years, Wells has led these bands of volunteers in repeated sweeps of the bay. Their objective, to study the social relationships within a resident pod of wild bottlenose dolphins.
Randy, we have 3 animals. We're not sure who they are. Looks like maybe sparks.
You ready? Drop it.
A net is swiftly set around a school of dolphins, and waist-deep in the shallow bay, the volunteers encircle the animals. Then one by one, they're captured, and, not without some effort, outfitted with a microphone attached by a suction cup. Dolphins which are veterans of the routine take it in their stride, but the first-timers are less easily reassured. The microphone picks up the dolphin's signature whistle, a sonic fingerprint which identifies each animal by name, age, and genealogy.
You ready, Andy? Go.
A full-grown bottlenose dolphin may tip the scales at 600 pounds and can be a slippery subject to handle.
Okay. That's good. Everybody off? Off. Yeah, slide him forward, Andy. Let him down? Yep. Just down? We can do it again. Okay. Yeah, down. Okay. That's fine.
While the mic picks up the dolphin's distinctive repertoire of whistles, clicks, and squeals, its vital statistics are carefully noted. Body measurements help the team monitor the health of the school. A rubber raft serves as a portable lab, so the dolphins can be examined on the spot without causing them undue stress. Sponges keep the dolphin cool during the procedure, while another volunteer blocks the sun from its sensitive skin.
13. 10 centimeters.
11.
20.
Ultrasound probes the dolphin's thick coat of fat and provides a picture of its internal organs. It's an ordeal, but at least it's temporary. The dolphin is soon released.
Ready for the release?
Wells and his co-workers recognize their intrusion into the dolphins' lives. But until he and others began such long-term studies, we knew almost nothing about how these animals lived. Most of what we thought about dolphins came from a wildly popular television series, now 30 years old.
They call him Flipper, Flipper, faster than lightning. No one you see is smarter than he. And we know Flipper lives in a world full of wonder, flying there under the sea.
Flipper, the start of dolphin mania. Entertaining the public at marine parks is a billion-dollar industry. It's at shows like this that millions make their first and only acquaintance with dolphins. A unique aspect of this industry is that the Marine Mammal Protection Act requires it to educate as well as entertain. Brad Andrews, a spokesman for SeaWorld, sees important benefits from keeping dolphins in captivity.
The question that arises all the time is, do we really need dolphins in marine parks? And I think absolutely you do, because after spending 19 years with these animals and knowing what we haven't learned yet and what there is to learn about the animals, it's absolutely imperative. You entertain people, you educate people.
There's very little to be learned from a dolphin in captivity that has been reduced to a performing circus clown. Habitat dictates behavior. Their habitat is so radically altered, their behavior is radically altered, and they no longer represent dolphins in the real world, in nature.
Rick O'Barry speaks from years of experience. Early in his career, he captured and trained performing dolphins. Among them, the original Flipper.
The thing that really turned me around on this captivity issue was when Flipper died in my arms at the Miami Seaquarium, inside of a steel tank. At the risk of sounding anthropomorphic, I must tell you that I think it was suicide. These dolphins are not automatic air breathers like we are, and they sometimes hold their breath and take their own lives. For the dolphins, everything about captivity is unnatural. The synthetic seawater, the concrete chlorinated tank, everything about captivity is unnatural, and so the stress level is higher.
There is no stress factor that can be measured. People say that the animals are stressed to be here. Well, they're stressed to be in the wild. They have to forage every day. They have to go through social compatibilities. They have to stay away from boats. There's the stresses in any environment. How we measure that is very unclear.
You have to be incarcerated yourself and in prison to understand how horrible it really is. Last year, I was arrested 7 times here in Florida trying to stop the capture of dolphins and exporting them around the world. You're completely at the mercy of your jailers. What you eat, when you eat, who you're in the cell with. They control your social structure. These dolphins are self-aware creatures that routinely make choices and decisions regarding the details of their life. They are entitled to freedom of choice. Thus, they are entitled to freedom. Capturing them and imprisoning them is simply wrong.
We do everything we possibly can to provide for those animals, to stimulate those animals. They're also very happy animals. A lot of people say, well, you can't put that kind of anthropomorphism on the animals. Well, I can. They're very happy. They grow to old age, they reproduce, they have babies, they eat well. Medically, they're taken care of very well. We have the best equipment in the world if, for some particular reason, they do become ill.
All along the Florida Keys, where tourists flock year-round, dolphins are a major roadside attraction. More than 400 dolphins are in captivity here in the U.S. alone, working for a living. Many of these dolphins are on display at hotels and motels, where they earn their keep as an added attraction for the guests. In many cases, the conditions under which these dolphins are kept are deplorable. Bored and all but forgotten, this dolphin suffers the cruelest fate of all. Its only companion, an inflatable rubber alligator, which it drags around its pond. Rick O'Barry blames the government agency responsible for marine mammal protection.
This is the National Marine Fisheries' own record-keeping system. The pink ones here are the dead ones. The green ones are dolphins that were transferred and fell through the slats. I can't find them. The yellow ones are still alive and surviving. You can clearly see here, as I flip through this, we basically have disposable dolphins for our disposable society. That's how it really works. Flipper was probably the very best and the very worst thing that ever happened to dolphins. On the one hand, it made people aware of them, exposed the masses to dolphins. At the same time, it created a great desire to have them and to hold them and to kiss them and to swim with them and have them entertain us.
Some have capitalized on the dolphin craze by launching swim programs, permitting fee-paying guests to spend a few minutes in a pool with trained dolphins. Swim programs are also legally required to educate as well as entertain.
We're going to be talking about a large group of animals that includes dolphins. It includes dolphins and whales and porpoises. And that group of animals is called this right here, cetacean. Can you guys say that?
Cetacean.
Good. Cetacean. What kind of animals? Who can tell me what kind of an animal a cetacean is?
Mammal.
Right. Did everyone hear that?
Yes.
Let's say it together.
Mammals.
Mammals. Good. Takes a lot.
These children are not taught that according to a report by the National Marine Fisheries Service, only 53% of adult dolphins captured survive longer than 90 days. The dolphins that do adjust to captivity may live as long as dolphins in the wild, but their lives are changed forever.
Swim programs have become very popular. Unfortunately, they don't work. You have to realize that the dolphins have been reduced to draft animals, and their job is to satisfy an endless stream of people.
As for the people, they seem to love it, and many go home with a personal videotape, a memento of a powerful experience. A pool may be fine, but what can compare with swimming with dolphins in the open sea? That was exactly the thinking of Mike Schultz when he launched his own spin on a swim program in the Bahamas.
Well, I basically got tired of training dolphins for show situations, a little bored with that, and wanted to find a different alternative to present these animals to the public versus a cement swimming pool in a show situation. So we came up with the idea of people interacting with dolphins, both in a captive situation and, of course, with our ocean program where they get to go out in the wild and actually encounter and physically touch the dolphins out in their natural setting, which is the ocean here.
Schultz's dolphins are far from wild. They're performers, captured and trained to entertain divers, who pay for the opportunity to experience what some describe as a spiritual encounter. The dolphins accept a few fish and pose for photographs. At the end of each scheduled outing, they dutifully return home to a holding pen back on shore, where they're trained, fed, and cared for.
The training process we employed from the beginning was basically some operant conditioning, reinforcing the positive behavior, ignoring the negative, but we had to use various twists on this. Due to the open release program, it had to be mandatory that the dolphins not only liked their captive situation, but the animal care staff, because if they didn't like it, we're aware that they have the option to leave.
As proof of the dolphins' contentment with the arrangement, Schultz cites the fact that they eagerly return to their pens after their daily excursions at sea. But critics charge that this does not mean that they are free. Their captors, they say, have made them totally dependent upon them for food and friendship, cut off forever from the life they knew in the wild.
I think the swim programs serve to perpetuate this insidious, utilitarian perception of nature that we have. That's the problem. That's the heart of the problem. It's a form of bad education. It teaches us that abusing nature is acceptable. We're told that it's going to sensitize people, and if we display these dolphins and swim with them and so forth, it's going to save them. People will become conscious of them, and that's not true.
Does a dolphin encounter like this really help us to know them, to care for their plight, to fight for their survival? Perhaps it does, but the question is, should dolphins pay the price for our knowledge? Do some of them need to sacrifice their freedom to serve as ambassadors for their kind?
I personally don't see a problem with keeping dolphins in a captive situation as long as enclosures are large enough and the animal care staff is professional.
We really don't know how stressful it is for the dolphins, whether they really enjoy it, whether certain animals enjoy it more, whether it's a hazard to the people or the dolphins. I think some of the bigger issues are do we still capture wild dolphins for these programs? Do they become an exploited, species in that respect?
If we didn't have dolphins in a place like this at SeaWorld, people would still be shooting at the animals. They wouldn't care. They wouldn't be concerned about the tuna dolphin porpoise problem. They wouldn't be concerned about drift nets. They get all of this information. They learn about animals. They take it with them home. It's very important, and it's an extension.
To have them in captivity really requires that we give them what they need, and that means interaction, environments that are interesting and stimulating for them, and other members of a social group that they can interact with.
We've learned nearly everything we know about their sounds, about their minds, about their physiology in captivity. And this has been terribly important to the protection of dolphins. Society wouldn't care unless it was excited about these animals, and we've learned a great deal about them from captive animals.
We've had dolphins in captivity in America since 1938, and a lot of the so-called research that's going on today is just repeating the same old stuff. We've learned enough about these creatures, or we should have learned enough to know that we're talking about a sonic creature in a concrete tank, and we should have learned that they don't belong there.
The dream of communicating with other animals is as old as human history. But can we find ways to commune with our fellow creatures and to learn from them without harming them in the process? Or could it be that we will never really know them, that they will always swim just out of reach at the edge of our imaginations? The writer Henry Beston put it this way: they are not brethren, they are not underlings, they are other nations, caught with ourselves in the net of life and time, fellow prisoners of the splendor and travail of the earth.